everybody. Thanks for joining in today. We are going to be talking today about something very special, which is working as a team, as we all do every day. But we're just going to kind of talk a little bit about how we want to maximize the use of our time and our unique situation that we have here working with Brandon in the capacity that we are. Before I get started on anything else, I just wanted to say, one, thank you for welcoming me on board with such open arms. I'm super excited to be here. And second, I want to just let you guys know that what I've seen so far from this team is really, really special. The warmness and the dedication that you all have is really not something that you find every day. So again, I'm super grateful to be part of this team, and you should give yourselves like a pat on the back, because what you guys are doing and the amount of care that you put into your jobs every day is evident to anybody that pops in and sees. So let's just take that positivity and kind of just refresh on what the best ways to use our day and our time with Brandon is. All right, so we are going to go ahead and get started. While I'm doing this and going through some of these slides, and it shouldn't be too long of a training, but as we're going through, I want you to just kind of self-reflect a little bit and think about the following. Think about where during your day are you most comfortable with Brandon? What are the areas that you do with ease? Where do you think you need to push yourself? Tasks that maybe you give off to somebody else pretty easily because it's not a preferred activity for you. And then overall, how can you just improve to best serve Brandon and also to help your coworkers? Everybody can improve in some way or another. So I'm just challenging you to kind of think and reflect as we talk about this stuff on how this is going to hit for you and what you can do. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so this is just an overview of the things that we're going to be talking about. The whole overall goal here is to establish those expectations and the guidelines for managing a team where there's a lot of shared responsibilities. In order to really do that, we need to look at the following. We need to make sure we understand why we have two people with Brandon when he's awake. We also need to, and this is the big one, how do we manage the equal roles throughout the day? And then also, why is that so important? And there's a lot of reasons why that's important. So we'll go into that a little bit. Then I want to briefly touch on the difference between structured activities and your role and downtime. Because again, we're in a unique situation with Brandon where he's not in a school, he's not in a program where he should be working all day long, where it would be kind of easy to define your role. This is his life, and we have to kind of meld into it and find out what our role is within his life. So we're going to look at the difference between the structured activities and the leisure activities. And then we're going to touch briefly on what do we do when it's a rough day, and what do the roles look like, and what is that ideal situation to help turn his rough days into not so rough. So let's go ahead and... All right, so why are there two people with Brandon during those waking hours? I'm sure that you guys have an idea of that process, but it's been a long process for us to get to this point. It's not easy to get two staff members approved on one individual at any given time, but it's extremely necessary for Brandon, as well as for many other people who unfortunately don't have the ample staff that we do. So it's a unique and wonderful situation that we are in, and really it's to help Brandon thrive. It's all for the good, but it didn't come easy, and it's important to remember that that's something that was fought for and will continue to be fought for because it helps him. It's necessary for him for many reasons. Having a higher staff ratio just overall increases our ability to do our jobs as best as we can. It helps us correctly implement programming. It helps us have a support system to promote accuracy and data, and accuracy of data. And it's also safer. It's safer for Brandon. It's safer for us. I don't think anybody would disagree that it's a better situation. So it's exciting that we have this, but it does pose its challenges. Having two people working on one role at any given time can kind of create some difficult situations that we want to make sure that we kind of keep in the forefront of our minds, so that way we can have an open discussion about expectations and your roles, and make sure that our work environment is super happy and wonderful for Brandon. So let's go ahead and move on. All right, so here's the meat and potatoes. How do we manage the equal roles that we have here, and why is it so important? Some of this is going to be very common sense and stuff that you think about every day. When you guys come to work, you are sharing a role, and essentially it's kind of like you're in a relationship with that person that you're with. As I was thinking about how to, talk about this, I kept thinking it's like the same as with my husband. Like, he does his things and I do my things, and when we make it work. But is it always 50-50? No, and they always say marriage isn't 50-50 and whatnot, but what we're trying to do here is figure out how to make it as 50-50 as possible, to overall make sure that everybody is, pulling their weight and feeling valued and feeling happy in their work. So it really comes down to, respect for your coworkers. So making sure that somebody's not always stuck with one of the duties that might not be a preferred activity. It's sharing that role, and so I want you guys to think about what roles you typically take on within the house, pertaining specifically to Brandon, pertaining to the care of the house, because that's also something that comes along with your job. But we want to make sure that we are striving each day. Well, it's not always going to be perfect, but that we're striving each day to have as much of a 50-50 split. If I'm working with the same person a couple days in a row and they did, the morning workout yesterday, I'm going to take it today. And it's not just because we want to make sure that the work is divided evenly. It's a little bit about that, because you don't want people to start to feel resentment, and you don't want that, awkwardness that can come about when you're working so closely with someone. But ultimately, the reasons for this split are deeper than that, and it comes down to Brandon. The second 2 points on this slide are really the main reasons why I want to talk about that equality in the roles. Brandon has connections with people, and he knows, what you've got to offer him and what you've got to offer him, and what types of activities you like to do and what you like to do. He can pick that up instantly. And it comes down to being paired with him. Now, that's a term that's used in the ABA world. It's not really a fancy term. Being paired just means he knows that you've got something that makes it worth working for. If you're paired with someone, then you're going to put in a little more effort, because they've got the goods. And pairing is a process that you all have done with Brandon over the months or years that you've been working with him. It starts off with a simple, happy greeting and walking in the door and giving him your attention. That's a pairing process. Having a dance party is something he enjoys, and now when he looks at you, he knows, hey, you're a good dancer. All right, maybe I'll listen to you. No, it goes down to getting more buy-in from him. He's not likely to want to work or, follow your rules if all you give him are rules and you got nothing fun attached to you. So that pairing process, we talk usually a lot about it at the very beginning when you start working with a client. But it's an ongoing process. Every day, you should be pairing yourself with positive things for him, because every day we need that. He's not going to remember something you did last week enough to make him want to work for you hard next week. So in keeping the equal roles and making sure that you're getting face-to-face time with him gives you opportunities to continue that pairing process. So ultimately, for your relationship with Brandon, the more you do with him, good and bad, the stronger your relationship grows. So that's a big takeaway as to why we want to make sure we're focusing more on a 50-50 split. And then it also comes down to that unified team, that united front that we, you kind of hear parents talk about that. Like, a lot of parents will say, oh, I would just, my son will go ask my husband for something if I say no, because he knows, or he knows that mom will likely let him stay up late, but dad won't. That's human nature. We figure out how to get what we want and who's going to give us what we want. We all do it. But if one person is heavily leading the instructional pieces of his day, then when the other person needs to step in and do that, he's going to see that as a weak point. He's going to be like, I might be able to pull some stuff over on this person because they don't typically do this with me. So it's important, for that big picture, that we all are presenting Brandon's day to him so that he's more consistent, we're more consistent, and his day and his behavior then becomes more consistent. I hope that makes sense. I know I keep tying it back to, examples that aren't necessarily with Brandon, but that's because what we're talking about here is true for all humans, and Brandon is no different in that way. So in creating that equal role, we're really looking to make sure we're maintaining our paired, happy relationship with Brandon, as well as creating that united team to make that consistent performance. That's really our big takeaways there. Okay, so structured activities. We know that Brandon's day is not supposed to be all work. He is an adult. He has put in his time doing school. He has put in his time doing therapy, and I can attest to that. I was there. He has put in his work. Doesn't mean that there's not still work to be done, but he needs to have that balance of chill, leisure time, and structured activities. So looking at the structured activities, big ones, we're talking about workouts, mealtime, chores, various outings, work events, things like that. Those are the type of activities that I'm talking about, but it's not limited to those. Really, we want to think about, okay, what should this look like with our two-person approach? It should look like one person who is giving the prompts and the instruction for that activity, and the other person is supporting. And depending on what the activity is, supporting might look different. And we're going to go into that in more detail when I create trainings on each of the types of structured activities that he does. But for now, let's kind of take it as a blanket. The person will be supporting by either modeling, taking data, watching for problem behavior, really just assisting as needed. The things we want to avoid are one person giving the prompts and the instruction and the other person unengaged. That could look like doing the dishes, sitting on the couch, talking with the other therapist. During structured activities, both staff should be engaged in that activity in some way. So I know we've talked about in the past how one person should be working with Brandon at a time, and that's true. One person's going to be that hands-on person, but that doesn't mean that the other person is kind of like free to do something else. During these structured activities, it's our golden moment to teach him new skills, take extensive data, so that way we can make informed decisions on what's next, what's he struggling with. It's also peak times when we might see some problem behavior because we're making him do things he doesn't want to do. So the anticipation of there might be some issues here should be higher. Now I know that I put in there that you shouldn't be off doing the dishes. Now I understand that dishes have to be done, and I'm not trying to say that we can't do that, but there's a time and a place for those types of chores, and that's when he's having his leisure time. That's when chance of problem behavior is low. That's when there's unlikely to be any additional data needing to be taken. So that's kind of why I put that in there, not to discourage you from doing the other parts of your job, but to kind of consider when is the best time for me to be allocating, time to other things. This is super important, especially since we're going to kind of be honing in on the best ways to take some data on programming that he's doing currently, with the full intent to just maximize what he can do any day. And if you're actively working with him, it can be really hard to gather some of the specific data that we might want to look at. So that second person's role during those activities is really, really important to be engaged. As well as, and I kind of talked about, watching for that problem behavior, because during those structured times, it's more likely that you're going to see some of those things. So I'm going to delve right into the next slide on what to do when we are having problem behavior or a rough day, with the two-person approach. That second person really needs to be looking for cues. Cues from Brandon that problem behavior is going to happen. Those precursors is what we call it. Maybe the things that happen before a bigger incident. I know for Brandon, a lot of times, like the yelling or maybe some spitting will happen before more disruption. Those things that, we're kind of up in the ante here. Those clues that tell us we need to be a little bit more prepared for the next couple of minutes. Also, though, looking for cues in the partner that you're working with. It's an easy job to get frustrated in. And I wish that it wasn't that way, but we're all people and we have our thresholds. And when Brandon's having a really tough day, you might find that you're feeling like you're having a really tough day. And that just means you're good at your job. That just means you're connected with what's going on and that you care. But you're also human, and you're likely to have a breaking point where you need a break. And so that second person should be watching and kind of looking for those body cues from you. Instead of waiting for you to call out for help, they should be there to support and swoop in if that person clearly needs a break. That's for the safety of everyone involved, and for the healthy mindset. You don't want to get into that place where you're really, struggling to get through an episode or a moment. That's one of the reasons why we have two people. So we have to make sure we're using it and that we're looking to best use it. Also, having that second person close by during problem behavior eliminates some of the panic. And what I mean by that is, if there's an episode going on where two sets of hands would be helpful, it's a lot easier to remain calm if you've seen the episode from the beginning, you see what the goal is, and you can just swoop in and start where the other person left off. It's a lot easier to do that and stay calm than if person one is needing your help and calls to you and you're in the other room and then you have to come running in. That starts an instant, I didn't see it start, I'm not sure what they need help with, and that running into the room kind of just creates a more tense atmosphere that we'd like to eliminate during these problem behavior episodes. It also provides a lot less attention to Brandon if the other person is already there and can just swoop in than if we have to call out or make it well known that that help is needed. If he's having this particular episode has to do with wanting attention, and we call for more people to come in the room, ba-boom, there's more attention. So it's not always going to be like that. There's going to be times when you're in the other room because, hey, you didn't really think anything was going to happen. You were utilizing the best use of time. You were going out and doing the other roles in your job, and all of a sudden something happened. But the best we can prepare to eliminate that happening, the better. And that's really going to come down to keeping 2 people in the room when you're doing structured activities. That way, everybody sees everything that's going on. And really just making sure that we're paying attention to the cues of the other person that we're working with, and thinking about the activities they're doing, and the chances of problem behavior, whether they're greater or less. Also, if you hear the beginnings of something and you're in the other room, might be a good time to stop the activity you're doing there and come in and just check, instead of shouting, "You good? Call if you need help." That's a lot more additional attention, and not the best approach when we're trying to decrease problem behavior and slow down the energy in the room. So I kind of hope that makes sense, without going into very specific details on each episode. I know that they're all different, and you're not always going to be able to do this 100%, but it's really just constantly thinking about best practice and really trying to anticipate how to best use your body and put it in the right room at the right time. Yeah, so let me just see if there's any other things that I wanted to touch on here. No, I think I got all of that. All right. Okay, sorry, I had to restart the slide because of excessive dog barking, but we're back in action. Just wanted to let you know that I appreciate the time that you're taking to talk to me about these things. I think it's best practice for us to just constantly be evaluating the way that we use our roles, the way that what we bring to the table, and the services that Brandon is receiving, and how we can just best use them. Put our best foot forward so that he gives us his best foot. I think that this team is wonderful and is going to continue to do great things. So if you do have any questions or concerns, comments about this topic of working with a team, please comment below, and we can have an open discussion about any scenarios that I didn't go through. Like I had said before, I'm going to give specific trainings on each of the different areas that he works at during the day, like his workouts, his meal times, chores, and whatnot. So that's coming. But if you have any other questions, like general, about your roles and the best way to use your time to enhance his performance, please let me know. Or if you have ideas as well, I am available. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So again, thanks so much for joining, and I can't wait to talk to you guys soon. Thanks.